crazy. I was crazy once. They put me in a rubber room with rats. The rats drove me crazy. Crazy! I was crazy once. Welcome back. My name's Emily, and today we are reviewing Girl on a Train by Paul Hawkins. I did see this movie right whenever it came out back in 2016. I don't remember it super well. When I first started filming this video, I did have the idea to do a prediction segment based off of the first chapter of the book and what I remember of the movie from almost a decade ago. And then I lost all the footage. So what we're gonna do instead is some predictions that I had also written out as I started reading the book. So they're kind of like predictions with training wheels. We're gonna see how accurate those predictions were, even though they weren't necessarily as blind as the original ones. But that's okay, and the next time I do a book review, I am gonna actually make sure I keep the footage of when I do my predictions segment. I will be spoiling things. Anyway, let's jump in. I thought Rachel was gonna fall down the stairs and break her neck because that's something she said she was scared of. I'm glad she didn't, but it would have been a very interesting ending nonetheless. Tom and Rachel's relationship was never as good as Rachel thought it was. This was true, but for a different reason. I thought it was because Rachel was always projecting fantasies onto their relationship and only saw it through this point of view of like cliche perfect life, but it was really just because he was gaslighting her, so whoops. Okay, I thought that Rachel had killed Megan by accident when she was drunk, and that Tom had disposed of Megan's body because he has like some weird affinity for Rachel still. So I was close, had two pieces of it backwards. I thought also Rachel was gonna get pregnant with Scott's baby. But again, close, but opposite, and Megan got pregnant with Tom's baby. Ultimately, I was wrong about a lot, but I was also right about a lot. In my original predictions segment that got lost, predicted that 2 people would die. I didn't know which 2, I just thought 2 people would die. That did end up happening. I did think that Tom was gonna cheat, but with like a secretary or something, only because he had cheated on Rachel. And I was like, okay, well, a cheater's gonna cheat again. He'll cheat with some rando that doesn't matter, not the main character of the whole murder mystery. So yeah, not a whole lot of predictions. I kind of just got wrapped up in the story pretty quickly and was scribbling out random predictions while I was reading it and as I was like connecting the dots. So sort of predictions, also just me putting the book together real time, so whatever. Anyway, let's go into the review. Girl on the Train is a story about a girl who receives the mental health treatment that she so desperately needs via the murder of a random person. Overall, I love the book. It was really good. I think the plot was super fun, and I think that it was written out like really well for the type of murder mystery that it is. One of the big things I don't care for with this book, like the writing style is dry, and that's fine. I think it worked really well for this story. But if this were a less interesting story, it would be boring. It'd be like a boring plot and boring writing. But it's an interesting plot with kind of dry writing, so I think that works. And the last book review I did, it was sort of a boring plot with interesting writing. So I think you can kind of like mix and match those as needed, and I think it works in this case, but it's not my favorite. But that's okay. What it lacks in writing flair, it more than makes up for in an exciting plot, and I appreciate that. I did really enjoy with the plot that Rachel was kind of like set up to be a very unreliable narrator, and that she seems like she has these like obsessive fantasies, and because she's like an alcoholic and seems to have some sort of like mental illness, you can't really rely on anything she's saying, and like from the get-go she is making up stories about Megan and Scott. And so I like that that was almost like a smoking gun. Like, she isn't actually an unreliable narrator because of her perception of the world. She's an unreliable narrator because she was gaslit into believing a different reality than the truth. And also, she likes fantasies. I think the fantasies was a red herring to make you think that everything she said is a delusion almost, but I think she's just somebody who likes fantasies. And it was also gaslit into believing a false reality by Tom. So I think that was a cool way to write her, where she seems crazy at first until you start to kind of like unravel her backstory, and then you're like, wait, maybe she isn't crazy, like maybe she's actually like a victim of everything and like has really gone through it, and like she's actually just trying to do the right thing and just keeps on like misstepping and fucking up. So that's what I got out of it. I liked that. One thing I noticed, everything that everybody thinks about everybody else is just wrong. Rachel talks about how she thinks that Kamal is the type of person who, like, whenever he's listening to her talk in therapy, oh, he must listen to everybody like this. Or Anna, whenever she's around her other moms, she's like, oh, they must think that I'm horrible and that I'm a terrible mother. And I'm like, why on earth would you even imagine that they'd think that about you? Whenever Scott was certain that Megan was pregnant with his baby, I don't know. I just think the fact that throughout the entire book, over and over and over, people keep making assumptions on what other people think of them or what other people believe is true about a given situation. And it brings me back to my core belief in a book, in a movie, in a story, across the board. There would never be any conflict. There would be no story if people could just communicate clearly. All conflict in any story is the result of somebody miscommunicating. Prove me wrong. I don't know that there's a single exception that there isn't a story that couldn't be like 10 minutes long if somebody could just sit down with somebody else and have a fucking conversation. I really liked Anna's character. I like characters that are bad. Technically she gets a redemption, but she was just like a bad person. Like she said, she's like, I liked being the mistress. I liked ruining their marriage. I liked being wanted and like getting what was mine. I like that she was evil. I like that she was just like a terrible person, honestly. And I think that's more uncommon that like women are just bad people. But I appreciated that she was just a bad character. And so it made it even more satisfying whenever she was on the fence. Maybe I will let him kill Rachel. In moments like that, I was like, shit, maybe she will. I don't know. And I like that not knowing. And I think they did a really good job of making her just so bad that you're like, man, maybe she'll help him. Like, I don't know what she'll do. So then it was really satisfying whenever she helped kill Tom. That was great. I liked that. I thought it was really funny when Scott had his villain monologue and he just like snaps in the house and he's just like, oh man, yeah, you're right. I am trying to do this. Like, oh, I'm so tired of pretending. Really like that because I think they portrayed him snapping and like being evil really well. Like just cold. He was just like cold as shit. And I really, really liked that. Okay, let's move on to the movie. Emily Blunt is way too pretty to be playing Rachel. That's my first thing. I love Emily Blunt, I really do. She is my Full Metal bitch. She is my Angel of Verdun. She's no Pam, but she's also no Rachel. And I'll get into that more in the next section. While I don't see her as Rachel, she did play drunk and wasted extremely well, and I suspect that's why they cast her. I did like that they made Rachel an artist in the movie. I think that helped with kind of supplementing some of the internal monologue that she had and kind of showing us her thoughts rather than just monologuing everything. So I thought that was a good creative choice. Why the hell is Kamal white? He's Venezuelan. Why? I thought he was supposed to be Middle Eastern. I don't understand character changes like that. There's really no point. Also, he started speaking Spanish like halfway through the movie. I suspect that was to make him seem guilty, that he was like suddenly trying to like change his personality a little bit after he'd gotten arrested. But I thought it was just really confusing. I had to like go back and rewatch the beginning and his first shots with Megan in therapy because I was like, he didn't have an accent then. And I don't know why they did that. My biggest problem with him though is that he is just like the husk of a person. He's so mean looking. In the book, Rachel describes him thusly. Everything about him was warm. His hands, when I shook it, his eyes, the tone of his voice. I searched his face for clues, for signs of a vicious brute who smashed Megan's head in, for a glimpse of a traumatized refugee who had lost his family. I couldn't see any, and for a while I forgot myself. I forgot to be afraid of him. I was sitting there and I wasn't panicking any longer. She literally like couldn't see him as a bad person. Like he was so comforting that she just forgot that she came there to snoop on him and like figure out his past and just started like trauma dumping because he pulled that out of her, because he's a good therapist and he has that kind of warmth when you look at him. This man does not have that. He looks so fucking tired of you being there. He looks like he's on the verge of telling you to shut up or like roll his eyes at you. And I would never tell him my secrets. I'll get more into that in the next section again. I hated what they did to his character. It sucks. I really liked the soundtrack. The soundtrack was great. I don't know where they got the music or if it was all original, but I think it was a very unique, stressful, suspicious soundtrack, and every time that the stressful music played, I was very, it felt very fitting, and I think they did a really good job picking a good soundtrack and score to go along with the movie. So props to them, because that can be really difficult and usually people miss the mark, so I appreciate that. One of my beefs with the movie is that when Tom confesses, it's easy to miss it. Like nothing happens. He's just like, he just sort of like is very quiet and like doesn't really acknowledge when Anna and Megan are like, we know what you did, like we found your phone, like we know. He was just sort of like quiet, picked up the baby, just didn't really acknowledge them. And like in the book, it's this like big moment where it's just like, holy shit, like Tom's caught, like what's he gonna do? And then in the movie it was just sort of like, meh, whatever, and I just really didn't think they did it justice. There was no music, it was sunny outside, there wasn't even any rain. Like whenever Rachel runs outside and Tom attacks her, like it's the middle of the day, like big open yard, anybody could have looked over and seen it. So I'm like, it just didn't set the mood the way the book did, and I think that was a huge letdown. Like when Tom popped into the window behind Anna and Megan when they were talking in the yard, in the book, I like jumped when I read that because I was like, holy shit, like, oh my god, like I felt the suspense, and in the movie I felt nothing. And I think that sucks. In the end, I like the statue of like all the women holding hands and laughing, being connected. I like that they tried to bring it together with this, like how we are all three of us are all connected by this man, and we will carry that together for our whole lives. I think that that was a cool sort of thread that they put into it, a creative touch. And I think that not a lot of movie adaptations of books do that enough, where they try way too hard to be completely faithful to the book, and it falls flat because it's so hard to like adapt this word for word when most of it's inner monologue. So I appreciate that they took some creative liberties to adapt this story to screen and change it in ways that enhance the story. Now, here's what I want to do. Since I fucked up my predictions segment, we're gonna do a recasting of the movie because I don't like the actors that they chose. Almost none of them, honestly. I think the only person that they cast well was the red-haired man. He made me feel safe and I love him. But everybody else was not good. I'm gonna recast the main crew. This is strictly based off of looks and how I imagine them in my head. This is not based off of acting prowess, so I need you to not freak out about that. If you do have better like casting options, I would love to hear your thoughts, just because I think it's very interesting. So we're gonna start with Megan. Megan was played by Haley Bennett. Absolutely not. No. Megan is a tall and like Vulpine type of woman, like sharp and like beautiful, not super modelly, but like I just felt like Haley was so soft and like girlish in a way that just didn't feel like a Megan. I don't know. So I would replace her with Annalyn McCord. This girl. I don't know anything else she's in, but I feel like this is more of a Megan. So that's who's getting her slot. So Anna was played by Rebecca Ferguson, which I think was a very good choice. I think she did a great job. But if we're going for perfect casting, and in my perfect world, I would be split between Gwyneth Paltrow, because she scares me, and Rosamund Pike, because she can play cold bitch. And I respect that, and she also scares me. Honestly, either one of those I think would be a good replacement. But again, I liked Rebecca. I think she did good. Scott. This man is not Scott. Absolutely not. Scott is a simp. He's the guy that you meet and you go to high school prom with, but then you never quite find anybody else good enough to leave for, and so you just sort of stay with them. And I could see a person like Megan, my Annalyn, Megan, my version, meeting this man in high school and them getting married and her not being happy with it. So I think Scott should have been played instead by Josh Hartnett. Don't know who he is, but I think he could play a simp. Tom. Okay, I have a lot of problems with this man, Justin. First among them being that he looks like Robbie Rotten from Lazy Town. Can't get over it. Robbie Rotten always scared the shit out of me, so in that way he does play a good scary person, but no. He absolutely not. No, not this man. He also looks way too much like Sylar from Heroes. So I hate him in this role for that. He did play a good douche at the beginning of the movie, but then he kind of like lost it and got kind of like meh. So I think instead he should be played by Cody Kersley. Look at that face. Look, I just feel like Tom is the kind of person who needs like a charming smile, and he has that. I think that Kamal was done so dirty, and I hate that for him, but I think he could be played instead by somebody with a nice warm smile. So I found Musa Hissine Karish. Please forgive me, I don't know if that's how you pronounce that, but look at this man's smile. They specifically say he is like dark skin, he's Middle Eastern, and this man is a man I would tell my secrets to. He just looks so friendly, and I really like him, and I think Kamal is comforting and loving, and I feel comforted and loved by this man. He's also attractive, so I think he fits the bill way better than the stony, cold, scary person that is Edgar Ramirez. He did not fit that character. So that just leaves one person, Rachel. My Rachel. Who's supposed to be Rachel? It's not Emily Blunt. Rachel, where's my Rachel? I had every intention of finding a woman who could play Rachel, and I spent, no joke, 6 or 7 hours one night just looking and trying to find somebody. I thought maybe Florence Pugh, specifically this version of Kelly Clarkson, a brown-haired Kirsten Dunst from her Spider-Man era, Amber Tamlin, let's see who else, Allison Carroll. I looked on like casting websites of like amateur actors to just find somebody who's like out of the mainstream. I found this girl, I don't know, she was kind of close, but like still not right. AI try to build her and Photoshop AI make her. I had Dolly try and make her. I tried to draw her. Fuck, man. I can't find her. In the end, the closest I got was Caitlin Dever, but she's too young. Then I thought, well, maybe an alternate reality where Elliot Page still looked like he did when he played Juno, because Juno is kind of closer to what I'm imagining. So huge swing and a miss. I couldn't figure it out. If you have somebody in mind you think could play Rachel better than Emily Blunt, please, for the love of God, tell me, because it's been absolutely driving me crazy. Crazy. I was crazy once. Well, anyway, that does that for this video. Thanks for stopping by. Let me know what you thought about Girl on the Train, the book or the movie or recasting. Let me know who your Rachel pick is. I'm very curious if you have a better option. I will see you guys back here again with another book and possibly movie review. We'll see. Have a great weekend. Bye. The very end of it, when just everything shakes out with Tom and Anna and Megan in that final kind of scene, that was very suspenseful and very stressful for me, and that's why I give this book one yo out of 10. That's how this book made me feel. Quite good. Liked it a lot. Very much. Oh my god. I do have some alternates because I couldn't quite decide how this book made me feel. So this is one. It made me feel like this, but it also made me feel like Oprah. And then it also kind of made me feel like this kid, you know, just like, whoa, my god. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, one of those is basically how this book made me feel. Can't decide honestly which one. Maybe it's a combination of all of them, but it was great. Really like it. Highly recommend.